We are live. This is the market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. Crypto crash is now trending on X. Now, let's start with what I think the problem is. So, we went from extreme enthusiasm a month ago, literally, the inauguration was a month ago, to what now looks like revulsion. How did we get there? Well, I think all roads lead through Solana and the nonstop rug chain that Solana became, right? And it just got excessive enough to where we kind of wrapped it all up with Kanye coin. And then you add a Bybit hack. Now, one thing I've read about hacks or these events that centralized exchanges go through is that, sometimes either crypto has to be sold to replenish the reserves. To be honest with you, it can be just bad enough, as in we don't know why people are selling. We don't. One of the reasons they could be selling, according to some stuff I've read, is that the centralized exchanges, they take advantage of stuff like this, right? To basically push everybody out and load up on crypto at very, very, very low prices. Not just your, usual one-day wick washout. In any case, we don't know what the selling is about. And we know that there is no bounce in the market, which means this selling is forced selling. So that's probably Bybit related, whether it's Bybit's reserves, whether it's calling in a loan. I have something that I put on my Twitter and commented that, I don't know, like some huge entity just put a whole bunch of money into Bybit. And I was like, what's this about? We don't know. We don't know. And that is the problem. Like crypto crash is trending on X, but why is crypto crashing? Well, there's a combination of excess, mysterious sellers, and then I'm guessing the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF is next, right? Because we thought everybody was going to rotate from tech stocks into Bitcoin. Tech stocks actually went down, but no one's rotating into Bitcoin. And you have this going on until the end of the month, right? Because now you have an end of the month phenomenon where larger players will dump anything that didn't work, which is pretty much everything. But it all goes back, I think, like this price action. It started with Ethereum and the Bybit hack, but I actually think the crash started with Solana. Because I remember looking at this thing on Sunday night, and I looked at the phone, and Solana was down 5%, like out of nowhere. And now Solana just keeps melting down. I saw Pump.Fun last night transferred like $12 million in Solana to Kraken, right? So everyone's cashing out. And this reminds me of what happened in 2017, where you had a 40% blowout in the market, right? You had euphoria, and then you blew out Bitcoin by 40%, and everybody thinks that that can't happen anymore. Well, guess what? It's happening to most altcoins. It's definitely happening to Solana. And Bitcoin is not immune from this, because if you have some sort of like, loan call or margin call happening, they're going to sell whatever they have. Now, is Bitcoin, I thought Bitcoin at 86 was a great buy, but if you get it lower than that, long term, that may be fantastic. But what they can do to this thing in the short term, we'll go over the Solana chart. This should end, right? And if it doesn't end, okay, if it doesn't end like this weekend, if it doesn't end this weekend, then we might have 2 more weeks of this. All right, so we'll take you through what details we have, but at this point, it's unfortunately obvious we don't know what's going on, and that's why it's going to continue to go on. That's why it's going to continue to go on. And I just got a headline from Eagle King about how, even Bybit itself is taking advantage of this by just liquidating everyone in perpetuals. So let's see what we got here. We got Alexandra, Roby, Warmon, Crypto Scam, Holy Schmoly, Miguel, Old Smoky, Zepedas, right? The originals, Zav, CL Sim, Grandpa Keeter, and Simpy 101. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Revulsion, where it goes down to a point where people just don't want to play. And I understand that, and we'll go over when we think it stops. Okay, so let's begin with this. Well, we were promised all this stuff by the administration, and there's all this headline making about Doge, and then guess what? They passed a spending bill through Congress, and they're still spending. So if they're still spending, and they said they weren't, then what else are they going to do? And I'm starting to feel like we're going to get rugged, or that we've already been rugged. The only thing about it is they pushed out the strategic reserve and a lot of stuff for like 90 days. Can you imagine 90 days of this? I can't even imagine 9 more days. So I don't know if he doesn't say anything at the State of the Union address, like literally this whole thing hangs into balance if he doesn't say something about digital assets. And frankly, I'm starting to get worried that if this thing goes down far enough that he just distances himself from it and can't touch it at this time, right? Which leads to hysteria. Now, the good news about hysteria is the sooner it's over, the sooner we know what's happening, that's when it ends. But in the meantime, we're starting to see shadows of everybody going, oh, everything is okay, everything's fine, which means it's not. Now, again, they I should really put this thing up. Yeah. So, they only cut spending by $4 billion. So they've got Elon firing everybody, and really that's mob justice out of spite, but really nothing's changed. Uncle Sugar is just doling out sugar. It's just to different places, right? It's just like they're eliminating waste and moving it somewhere else. And this was supposed to be bad for stocks. And stocks went down for 3 days, but stocks are bouncing today, which is unbelievable. NVIDIA earnings are coming out tonight, most likely. I mean, we'll talk about that, but I'm guessing since NVIDIA has accounting problems, it now would not be a good time to admit that they have accounting problems. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Now, Bybit made $400 million yesterday off liquidations. Now you know why Ben Zhu did not even flinch when the exchange got hacked for $1.4 billion. If you ever think you're crypto rich, you aren't, and Bybit isn't even close to the biggest player. Okay? So this speaks to something where, I'm not sure what this means, but herein lies the problem. Okay? Like 600 million out of the $1.5 billion, 600 million of the 1.5 ETH that they bought was sent to Bybit, okay, by Marana Ventures, making them the largest ETH depositor after the hack. Marana Ventures appears to have acquired this ETH by selling $500 million of BTC. And $100 million through Falcon. So, yeah, okay, we got money to back the ETH, but I don't know. They're borrowing it. They're selling it. They had to sell everything to come up with this hack. And apparently these exchanges make so much money when they liquidate. You hear these headlines like, blah, 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 blah. Watch your guru. $125 million liquidated from the cryptocurrency market in the last, whatever. And everyone goes, oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't realize this, but that's the exchanges like ringing the register, right? Like it's like a casino, right? The house just comes in and takes everyone's chips, apparently. I mean, it's not like legacy futures. I thought that's what it was. Legacy futures will transfer money from winners to losers. It sounds like when there's a gigantic perpetuals liquidation that the exchange actually makes a lot of money. So this guy, Marty Party, who has actually been talking about, hey, maybe this Bybit hack isn't what we thought. He said Binance dumped Sol and ETH to pay its Department of Justice fines back in the day. Bybit official liquidated the market to recover its lost ETH and now will buy it back from retail at a discount. They are not friends of crypto, right? They are not friends of crypto. In other words, these centralized exchanges take advantage of these events, whatever they are, fines, hacks, whatever, to liquidate the whole ecosystem. So it looks like FTX, and then everyone panics. Meanwhile, they're actually the ones profiting from this. I had no idea. I don't even know if that's true, but it certainly is interesting. And it also explains why the market's down only, because if you have forced selling, mass liquidations, these exchanges are like, oh, how nice. We're going to get to buy this like much cheaper. We'll buy Solana at 80 or 120 or whatever, right? They're just like, oh, great. I mean, like, did you ever really, seriously, after the inauguration, did you ever think that a guy like Arthur Hayes, who was talking about 75K Bitcoin, was even remotely right? DeFi only. Monolithic networks only. Rid your life of centralized exchanges or any network or institution backed by multi-sig wallets. Humans cannot be trusted. Trust the machines only. It's interesting, DeFi, DEXs, everybody is liquidating you and you don't even know it. How weird is that? That is, if that is even remotely true, it's kind of shocking that they're taking advantage of the hack to liquidate everybody, or they're taking advantage of the forced selling that they have to do. Because again, it is forced selling. There's no bounce. You can't have Solana go from 180 to 140 and have no bounce at all, and then have it go down 5%. Someone's being liquidated. Now, CZ. Now, CZ's kind of a hero, right? Because he went to jail and they kind of picked on him, and that wasn't very nice. But now I'm starting to look at this like, no need to panic. Bitcoin won't die. Or is it no need to panic? We're liquidating you and taking your crypto and all your money. Right? Interesting, interesting little factoid going on there. And then CZ waiting for the new headline. Bitcoin crashes from 1 million to 985. It's not funny. Not funny, not even a little bit. Okay. I don't like it when you start, like, I really never liked the guys in the black t-shirts from Bybit going, oh, everything's fine. Everything goes. Yeah, we talked about this couple days. Oh, great job, guys. Yeah, the market just tanks. And now we're talking about $1 million Bitcoin, right? You got to be careful. You got to be careful when people start saying stuff like there's no price too high. Like that was a hint. So it was Coinbase on the F1 car, Michael Saylor with no price is too high for Bitcoin, right? Followed by Kanye coin and everything that came before it, right? Trump was the top. He hit everybody over the top. I'm waiting for people to start like figuring that out. Trump comes over the top, everyone's euphoric, and then the rug chain started, and now you've got characters like CZ and Bybit. Undoubtedly not only profiting from, but taking advantage of whatever's going on here. Everyone was like, go after the North Korean hackers. And I agree. But are these guys taking advantage of that? Are they? It looks like they are. Crypto market is seeing a tactical retreat, not a reversal, says CZ. Okay, well, I think the end of the cycle talk is not correct. I've said all along, and my business partner said this, that we're going to have cycles within cycles. So 2024 was up, and then it was 4 months of nothing. Then the market goes up off the election, and then you have like some kind of 2018 winter crash thing going on. And then, you might go through 4 or 5 months, and then you're going to have, I don't know, you're going to have DeFi and AI take off again. So you won't get alt season. You won't get the type of stuff you had before. The cycle isn't over because you never had the cycle to begin with, at least the old fashioned cycle. So is it a tactical retreat? Yeah. But how deep is the tactical retreat? Right. I mean, I have already said this is not going to stop. This is not going to be remotely stopped till the end of the month. There's a lot of stuff that would suggest it does, because we're headed for a selling climax. If you have, crypto crash trending on X, that could be the end. Although I don't like these heads of exchanges going, everything is all right. I hate that. That's the same cringe as the Formula One car. Oh, don't worry, everything's fine. To fight crypto scams, Senate will limit transactions at ATMs. Yeah, as I understand it, this is totally out of control. Like, people will say, hey, you have a government fine you have to pay. You better rush to this ATM, and, you're sticking money in left and right. The scams in crypto, like, I don't know how that gets fixed, but someone's got to try, probably starting with the industry. But I'm actually happy about this. Somebody has to stand up and say no more scams. So I think this sums it up pretty good. This is a controversial political figure who got debanked and has to do everything via Bitcoin. And he's like, guys, that's pretty funny. Guys, hey, Elon, Donald Trump's son is like, hey, buy the dip. And then somebody retweets him. A couple guys did, as well as me, going, hey, tell your dad to buy the dip. Are you watching this? You got real popular with this. So, what are these guys going to do? The new crypto platform seeks to tokenize time itself. Interesting. Okay. You have to watch out for excess, right? You have to look out for stupidity. And I don't know if tokenizing time itself is stupidity, but I hate this, right? We were supposed to be putting stocks and bonds on the blockchain. And if anybody's wondering why the market's going down, it's because the market opted to do a lot of stupid stuff instead. And I guess that's fine. But when that happens, Gensler is not the enforcement agency, the market is. And I'm just telling you right now, I know this sucks for everyone's bags, but the purge is actually worse when the market does it. Like when the market says we're doing a purge, they do a purge and it never happens again. That's how bad the purge is, right? Which is why Pump.Fun is moving, Solana to Kraken to get out, because I would imagine people's appetites for that kind of stuff falls. Okay. As a reminder, in politics, there is no limit to the resistance that the orange man gets. It's just a reminder about the nature of the divided country that we're in. And I still don't understand how Bitcoin could be going lower and not the US dollar. I can't. That's the thing that blows my mind about what's going on now. So apparently, American judges are essentially saying that, you can't implement presidential executive orders, and that is completely inappropriate. And they're going to have to literally remove these guys. And the guy from El Salvador is like, hey, if you don't remove this corruption, you can't get anything done. So they're still resisting him. I would love it if we could move on from stuff like this and get to, doing something to protect us from the yen and the dollar, because, once NVIDIA is over tonight, you may get a bounce, but then the yen may be back in a couple days, because some of what's going on here is yen related. Maybe we'll get to that. Shock and outrage over shameful U.S. vote. So apparently we just kind of didn't condemn the Russians in an attempt to turn around our relations with them to end this war. Again, all this radical new stuff everywhere except crypto, right? It's like, guys, hello, right? We're doing all this political stuff. What about the economics? Big show, at Doge, but All right. So meanwhile, the Fed just continues to print, right? Like government spending is going up or not going down. Like they're getting rid of the corruption, but they're not getting rid of the spending. It's just going somewhere else. And the Fed has to print. The Fed has to print to save stocks, right? Stocks need to go massively lower. Stocks are cracking in a lot of ways because like tech stocks and consumer stocks and certain components of the market are like starting to break, right? But the fact that it all happens in crypto first, and then somebody's undoubtedly going to figure out at some point that, when the Fed tightening cycle or when there was an economic disruption last time, crypto was already down by the time that accelerated. Like crypto went way in advance of whatever problem was out there. The Fed will print to save Donald Trump from embarrassment over stocks. Okay, so Doge claims $65 billion in total estimated savings as agency official leaderboard is launched, right? So, like I said earlier, we're spending money in the trillions and we're cutting costs in the billions. And it's great headlines and it's great theater, but once you have markets start to move like this, no one cares. No one cares. Okay, at its low today, Bitcoin was down 20% from its all-time high. Is that a big drawdown for Bitcoin? No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, in 2010, you had 94%, right? 2017 in September, right here, Bitcoin went down 40%. I remember that. That was nasty, right? Everyone's like, oh my God, it's going up. Boom, 40% lower. Right. And that took 10 days, 10 or 11 days. Right. So it was like down only for like 10 days. It's like this. So you could still be in a bull market. You could just be blowing everyone out because everybody thought Bitcoin was sacred until Bybit or whoever is liquidating it to pay loans back or whatever they're doing. Again, we still don't know. Right. We really didn't know back then. Back then, it was just a trading flush, I think. Right. This is different, right? This is like, oh, don't worry. Everything is okay. Everything's fine. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, let's dump on you some more and not explain it to you. You know what I'm saying? Like that was a flush on 40% on, I don't know. This is 40% on something that's not good at all. There was a June flush in 2017. So you had a September flush, a June flush. You had 40 and 50% flushes in 2021 on the way up, right? The big one was the 80% decline off the top, right? And you had one of these back in the spring of last year, which was, that was the yen carry trade. That was 30%. So, yeah, I mean, we're sitting here going, oh, my God, because, I mean, it's happening to all coins. It's not just Bitcoin. And, I'm also seeing a lot of like victory laps and equities guys talking about fart coin and how that was an indication of the top. And, they're not wrong about that. But the thing that's funny is, this can continue because really by historical standards, it's not that big of a deal. It's a big of a deal if you have Solana melting down because that's not what's included here, right? So rate cut odds are rising. I mean, you're starting to see the videos now of like laid off workers. Like I saw one video last night. I think it was an IRS agent. I mean, this was gut wrenching where the guy's just like, yeah, I just want my job back. And he starts crying or he starts welling up with tears. And, and I know nobody's going to feel sorry for the tax man, but there are people just, I mean, you see, this USAID kind of quasi corrupt organizations that was funneling money to all kinds of ridiculous things. People just walking out with boxes. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of a little crowd of people who support that stuff going, yay, thank you, we love you. And then you get in your car and, what the hell do you do next? So the Fed's got to cut rates, right? I mean, if you get employment carnage, crypto carnage, and stock market carnage, the Fed is going to be cutting rates like crazy. Just the question is what happens to your bags in the meantime? That's the big question, right? Okay, so new Ethereum is set to close with the worst February ever, defying historical trends and market expectations, while Bitcoin hasn't performed this poorly since 2014. So I do have a historical data tool, and my partner said, don't bother. Don't bother, because we're in a completely new regime as to how this thing moves. And here it is, right? Cycles within cycles. Like everything that worked last time isn't working, because this all the way up, all the way down, all the way up, all the way down thing is the new normal, which of course is nauseating, right? Because, you didn't know that the orange man at the top and all the talk about the strategic Bitcoin reserve was it. You didn't know. I mean, why would anybody call for a top when everybody was calling for a Solana, an XRP, and Litecoin ETF, and then have that absorbed by a government fund, right? The government getting involved and the states in these ETFs, and now everyone's just backing away. Everyone. The Polkadot ETF, right? So it's almost like someone is paying Grayscale at this point to file for an ETF on behalf of their coin, just to get their coin in the news. I mean, again, my business partner is a big believer in Polkadot, but it's dead in terms of its price, right? So it's like every couple days we file for a new ETF. Where's the demand going to come from when you have this kind of price action? Of course, equities people would be like, hey, this is on sale. And I did see a headline yesterday where people were like, legacy people, if you want to hear some good news, they're going to love this. Because, the crypto market's going to mark itself down 40% on excess and forced liquidations. So guys are going to say, wow, this is great. You guys marked it down to 80 or whatever you marked it down to. I was going to come in here and scoop it all up. But there's a little cringe going on here. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, every day we have a new ETF, and then the stuff that we were supposed to have ETFs on, like Solana and XRP, just go down 5% every day, right? Two AI bots were talking to each other verbally and then decided to communicate in code instead. Again, my business partner makes another important point that there won't be any such thing as AI cryptos, like as a sector. Like all cryptos will have AI involved or they'll be gone, which is a really interesting thing to think about when you think about what you want to shop for after this whole forced liquidation ends. It's like new stuff only. That's what it feels like to me. Like if you got stuff from the last cycle, call your accountant and just, and I hate to say this, but like I said, with Pump.Fund, I'm afraid of what they're going to do to Solana. If Pump.Fund and all that excess is really over, Solana's been leading on the way down. It's not ETH. It's not Bitcoin. That's what's getting wrecked. Okay, spot Bitcoin ETF, $1 billion out. It was $1 billion a day in. And now you're going to have people freaking out. And I would expect this to continue for a period of at least a couple of days, especially at the end of the month, right? Like funds may move stuff around. Some funds may take advantage of it and buy, but a lot of the Bitcoin ETF is held by trading types, and they may just say, we're unwinding our trades. So again, this speaks to 2 or 3 days before you can go shopping. All right. So SUI, an advanced platform aiming to calm the issues of scalability. I read something that I found disturbing like a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, where somebody said, and this scared me, that SUI was the Polkadot of this cycle, right? Like, last cycle, Polkadot went to like $60. It was going to change the world. And then it just did nothing, didn't do anything. And one guy said, hey, is SUI the next Polkadot? Now, layer ones are going to be the thing. I'm assuming SUI is going to be a part of that. And SUI doesn't have the meme coin stink that Solana does. But you got to start asking yourself, what are these things worth at this point? Now, the good news is altcoins in general are coming into support, but I do think you have to really look at what you own and say, why do I own this? Okay. XRP keeps rally hopes alive as, right, Fibonacci levels, 38% retracement. Solana broke the uptrend line like 2-3 days ago. I had an uptrend line at 180. I'm like, okay, this is fine. And then the next thing you know, I'm getting stopped out in Solana. So this doesn't end until we figure out why it's happening. Okay. Let's see who else is here before we go to charts. Wesley, Calvin, yo from Las Vegas. Devin, what's going on? Proto Hypes, good morning. Malik, Crypto Steph. Congress can change the laws, not Trump. His executive orders are unconstitutional. Don't like it, tell Congress to change the laws. Yeah, I mean, I think you are 2 to 3 days away from everybody going, crypto's been rugged by the administration. I mean, literally, this could continue until they actually force Trump to either say something or back off. And the executive orders, whether you like them or you don't like them, well, as long with this Elon show, is just a show, right? Is just a show. Crypto is telling you something is wrong out there. It is, right? And no one wants to admit that, but that's what's happening. So you sit here, you watch crypto melt down while Elon's on some stage with funny sunglasses and a chainsaw going, oh, yeah, look at us cut government spending. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Look at the market's reaction. Stocks down 3 days in a row and crypto just vaporizing, which is unbelievable because crypto is the future. Crypto is DeFi and Web3, and all we've got is men behaving badly. Centralized exchanges taking advantage of, down moves to liquidate literally everybody, and then probably retail puking spot and ETFs most likely at the low, whether that's 2 days from now or mid-March or whatever. In other words, there may be a huge bounce in crypto on March 1, but from what level? Okay, let's just go through the charts and start going through all this, try to make sense of what's happening. Okay, so here's Bitcoin. And this basically means we got at least one more day. So we got today and we got tomorrow before we even think about a reversal. Now, in Solana, back to Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin has the support line in Bitcoin is all the way down here at 79. And I was like, wow, that's ridiculous. We're not going to go down there. This line's going to hold just fine. And look how they did this. See, this is sometimes it pays to look at the fine print. So Bitcoin breaks down, but wicks all the way back up, but can't get through the line. Nobody was willing to pay higher prices. Nobody was willing to pay 90. And then boom, right? You don't get these moves don't end until people go, oh, yeah, damn it, I missed the bottom. I got to get in. Yeah, it's not happening. Not happening right now. So, I mean, if you got at least one more down day in Bitcoin, that could be a big down day because people are starting to get upset. Right now, the good news is that, Solana has the 13 bottom signal, but I don't know where support is anymore, right? Support was supposed to be at 130. I don't know where the support in Solana is anymore. The good news is when this is over, it will be over. That's the good news. Like the DeMark work says, when this is done, that should be it. That's really the best thing I can point to at this point is that once they get done destroying this thing, that should be it, especially if they really, really hit it. That's the best thing I can tell you from Solana. But, there may be more work to do in Bitcoin. ETH, not even close. Today, 10, 11, 12, 13. You could have 4 more days of this in ETH. You could have one of these things where it goes right up until Friday, right? Because, again, this all started Sunday night. Like weekends in crypto scare me now. But one of the Kaizen guys said this. Every weekend we go through this. Okay, so let's go. I want to say Solana on like a 90-minute chart. So Solana on a 90-minute chart, this whole thing has reset, and this plus sign says we're waiting for a blow off bottom. So you have not seen a blow off bottom in Solana yet. Freaky, right? Scary. I think the best thing I can tell people at this point is that, you need to protect capital and get out of stuff that's not going to work. If you got stuff from the last cycle and it's getting killed, see it, right? Bitcoin, new stuff, AI, that's it. DeFi, AI, Bitcoin, and new stuff. The rest of it is done. And that could include Solana. The only reason to own Solana at this point is if AI agents issue coins and start an ICO season on Solana. But what they can do to Solana in the meantime, given the excess, it's just a purge. Like, who would think that you'd be worried about Solana going below 140? Solana should not have gone below like 150. It shouldn't have, but it did. Actually, let's go to that chart. See if I can just actually, maybe it's better over here. Okay, so here's the whole uptrend in Solana. And we did this. Like, what? No, I didn't draw right. I looked at this and I was like, there's no way they can break this trend line. Like, this trend line at 180 is fine. It's fine, right? There's no reason to break this trend line. I mean, all good trend lines have, I don't know. Yeah, they have 3 points. So here's the third point, but I was kind of considering this all one. Wrong. Right. So if all good trend lines have 3 points, a lot of times once it gets retested, it breaks. Now, that was not on my mind because I assumed this was kind of like one test close together. But when this thing broke down at 180, like, remember I was talking about Sunday night where I was like, whoa, what is this? I mean, they broke this trend line and this thing went straight down. Now, the good news is, again, this should bottom, right? This should be it. Like, there's a final heave. We should be done over the next 2 or 3 days. So the bad news is Solana. The good news is Solana. I'm scared of what they can do to this in the meantime, honestly. Because what is Solana worth if there's no pump.fun? The rug chain in many ways was publicity for Solana. If there's no rug chain, what do you do with it? That just seems to be common sense at this point, right? Now, if you want to hear something interesting, so this is total market caps, right? So this is a total total altcoin market cap, right? Man, they had this level up here at $1 trillion, and I was like, oh, it's resistance. But it's not backing off. It's resistance. It's not backing off. Well, guess what? The resistance held. And now it's coming back down to support, which basically these yellow lines are support for all of altcoins somewhere between 800 and 720 billion. So they've essentially wiped out a good chunk of the election. Like, this was Arthur Hayes' theory a couple months ago. Not a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago. That the market was essentially going to purge out all the post-election FOMO off, mass crypto adoption. So that's not surprising that all coins are getting washed out and all coins are approaching support. So, okay, that seems reasonable. And if you look at total crypto market cap, without Bitcoin, so ETH and everybody else together, that's approaching support. That's on its 200-day moving average. I don't see much of a case to be super bearish here. Like, they may hit it for 3 or 4 more days, but like, big picture, this stuff is being brought into a support level. That's altcoins, right? Then I look at total crypto market cap, which of course includes Bitcoin. And I'm like, oh my God, look how far they have to go to get this support. So what's the conclusion from looking at this? Well, in a market like this, if everything gets taken out to the woodshed, everything, what happens if total crypto market cap, including Bitcoin, unwinds the whole election thing? And what does that say about Bitcoin, where everyone thinks they're safe? Because that's the other thing about markets like this, right? Everyone's like, well, I'm just going to be safe in Bitcoin. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, because you want to be in the market in case there was a sudden reversal. But now this is the Bitcoin ETF. This is the Bitcoin ETF, which just gapped lower, meaning they've left everybody who's bought it since Thanksgiving hosed. So they just exited the range, and everybody who's bought this is hosed. Equilibrium is at 45. It's currently at 52. And are you going to have a selling panic in Bitcoin? Like Bitcoin dominance on a daily chart? What happens if Bitcoin dominance goes back to 59 because Bitcoin goes down? In other words, we're kind of altcoin people. So in some ways, I have a tough time feeling sorry for the Bitcoin maxi crowd, but nobody's safe in this environment because, again, we don't know why the selling is happening. We know the exchanges are profiting from it. We know people are going to wind up scooping this up super cheap. The question is, how do you protect yourself from either, some sort of panic avalanche or predators looking to liquidate you? The answer to that is easy. You don't stick around in stuff from the last cycle. You just don't. Like, Bitcoin, okay. ETH, probably. But is Solana yesterday's news? Now, maybe the answer to that is no, but what can they do with it in the short term? Because you got to ask yourself, how much pain can I tolerate if this goes beyond 3 days and turns into 3 weeks? Because that theoretically is possible, right? And you have to take that, seriously. Okay, here's additional news coming in. The Bitcoin office bought the dip. Okay. Lots of people buying the dip. I think it would be a really good idea if it stopped dipping. Just saying. Here's Bybit information. Join us to fight against the hackers. We've assigned a team to maintain and dedicate this update. Let the hunting season begin. Very interesting how we're all of a sudden interested in let's get the hackers while everybody gets liquidated. I mean, I get it, but it's a distraction. Okay. That was the Lazarus website. Can't open that. And then let's look at what's going on with Ondo. Actually, this was the big warning sign. So MasterCard is bringing Ondo into the multi-token as the first real-world provider on the network. Let's see what that did to Ondo. Because this was another warning sign, right? There was a bunch of them. When you have these triangles, because this happened in MicroStrategy too, we'll look at that. So in Ondo, you have LuxAlgo drawing these triangular formations. And the closer to the apex, that point at the end, the closer you are to that point, the more powerful the breakout, whichever way it goes. And Ondo broke down out of the downside on the 16th, which was 2 days after Coinbase made their Formula One announcement, right? All right. And then we're going to look at MicroStrategy, and then we'll look at one final headline where, you know, you can definitely be encouraged to protect yourself. Okay. It happened in MicroStrategy. So Michael Saylor sold all the MicroStrategy he could buy to get his hands on Bitcoin, and that makes sense. But MicroStrategy broke down literally right at the apex. Like, you know, a lot of people are going to have to buy MicroStrategy if they want exposure to Bitcoin, but make no mistake about it, this broke down. And if MicroStrategy breaks 248, that's the 200-day moving average, that's going to make the newspaper. Right, MicroStrategy breaks down. So you have to be careful of headline risk here. And, you know, hackers are making fake GitHub projects to steal crypto. Okay. If this is all we are, the market will take care of it. This is like a gigantic juice cleanse. All right. So you're probably at this point like, Bill, tell me something good. And I would love to, namely that this is a juice cleanse, right? If you want pump.fun, you want excess, you know, you want centralized exchanges liquidating everybody, and then you probably want BlackRock and the government possibly. You know, the government is probably going to wind up buying all this stuff at much, much lower prices. That's a guess, right? Sovereign wealth funds like, oh, great, we don't have to buy the top. You know, that's why they said, yeah, give it 90 to 100 days. Like, you know, one of them was like 90 days. Another one was like 6 months. Now you know why. And people are going to feel rugged. And this event on March 4th looms large. What you have to do is protect yourself as best you can. If there are bad trades, like, you know, I had to stop out of Solana at like 160. That's where I had my stop below his trend line. Oh, this is never going to get hit. Then I got filled at 160 and I'm like, oh, well, I just sold the low. Congratulations. And now look at it. Okay. So protect yourself. Look for a low in 3 days. Okay. And in the meantime, expect people to lose it because really, we don't know what's happening. And when you know, I'm only on the air 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day. The most important thing is it can end when we know what's happening. When we know who's selling and who's liquidating or what really happened on Bybit, then it's over. It's just like FTX, right? The funny thing about FTX is by the time we fully understood it, Bitcoin was at 16K and no one wanted to touch it because they thought it was going to 10. And the same thing may happen here, right? It'll go down and then we'll find out. And then people will be so upset, they won't want to touch it, which is why you want to protect any capital, because as soon as this is known, then it can end, then we can move on. I don't think this is the end of the cycle because we never had the cycle. We have cycles within cycles. So take that for what it's worth. Do the best you can. We'll see you tomorrow.